Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Seed of Dragons podcast, Coffee and Scotch. My name's Eric. I'm coming to you from London, England, and it's late afternoon on a November. You might be able to see the fading light as my friend Dust and I talk. Dust, you just want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, Eric. I'm the coffee part of the Coffee and Scotch. I live on the west coast of the United States in Oregon, and we love our coffee over here. And typically, when we record, it's mornings for me and evenings for you, Eric, or late afternoons for you. And so here we go, coffee and Scotch. Glad to do this
And
with you.
so, yeah, our idea was that you could be drinking coffee, I'd be drinking scotch, but guess who forgot to have any scotch ready for our first podcast? Yeah, but you do,
Don't
Of
worry, I
course you
have
do.
some right here.
I'm not jealous at all, but anyway, welcome. Seed of Dragons mythic tales of courage and darkness from the
Right.
Dragon's Lair. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for joining us at our virtual campfire. Dust, I floated the idea to you of at this campfire that we're at, if there was one author, living or dead, no rules, anyone
Yeah.
you want, living or dead, who you'd want to be at the campfire telling you a story, who would it be?
This is good. I mean, obviously, anyone who reads has too many names, but here we go. This is mine. So this is my buddy.
Really?
What do you think? Yeah.
Do you
No?
have enough wood to keep that fire burning for 80 years
Isn't
for
that
you to
great?
finish what
I
I
could
have
tear
that
out a
translation,
page
by the
after
way. I have that translation, by the way. It's very good.
yeah, page after page, just one page after page goes in the fire and keeps us burning. So this is my author.
Hey,
Dostoevsky.
this is going to be interesting because the last time I read Brothers Karamazov, I was not hugely thrilled by it. So,
Oh,
Dust, tell
that's
me,
good.
tell me why you love this.
I love. There's so much there. I mean, and every time you come back to it, there's more. All the brothers and their perspectives, the voices, each one of them has such a unique narrative. The wrestling. I mean, just Dostoevsky is caught in the storm, and he doesn't leave the storm. And I think as an author, that's helpful for me. That brings me back. When I remember reading
Tell,
it for the first
tell me,
time.
sorry, tell
Yeah,
me more
no,
what
it's
you
good.
mean by that. Dostoevsky is caught in the storm.
Yeah, I mean, that's why
Where
we
do you see
do.
that in?
Yeah, it's why we do Seed of Dragons and why we talk about campfires and everything else. It's the world we live in is not a tame world. And I don't like reading authors who try to tame it down too much, who somehow lock it in. And Dostoevsky doesn't do that. He has this tremendous gift at. I mean, he's phenomenal at helping you look through someone else's eyes and feeling what they feel. And at the same time, the chaos is like right there, and it's not
Wow.
outside. It's a lot of it's on the inside of whatever person he's speaking from. So I've got at some point in our conversation, I've got a quote I want to read, but there's so many that I have underlined in this particular novel.
I would love to hear that.
So anyway, that's
Um,
that's me. How about you, Eric? Are let's play pickleball and just go back and forth like this. Boom, boom, boom. Your turn.
I will tell you this, but before I want to say that I've got Brothers Karamazov downstairs with my other books because I like it, but I've got Underground Man. Where
Mm,
is it? Here it is. Underground Man, right here,
mm,
which I think is just a perfect, just
mm,
I could sing this book's praises all
mhm.
day long. If we have time today, I'd love for you to convince me on why I'm wrong about Brothers Karamazov.
Okay.
Anyway, if we have
Okay.
time. Um, I'm going to be rude and turn away from the audience. Please forgive me. Where is it?
We're
There we
so high
go.
tech here. Listen, people, I'm on the west coast of the United States, and Eric is in London, somewhere outside the outskirts of London. So you should just be thankful that we're pulling this off.
I think a better way to set that up would
Isn't-
be we are both so inept with technology.
Yeah,
You
right.
should be thankful I figured out how to turn my
Exactly.
computer on. That's true of me anyway.
Same here.
My choice would not be Seamus Haney, absolutely lovely as he is. It would be the unknown author of Beowulf. And because there are no rules,
Mm,
we'd be able to, in fact, as long as there's no rules, we'd be able to hear the Old English, which I'm sure is lovely, and understand it and be translating it and
I
taking it in at the same time.
I feel
Um,
like you're cheating. I feel like this like I thought we were talking about someone that we know, and all of a sudden you go off script and be like, the unknown author of Beowulf. What the heck? Come on. Come
so do you personally know
on.
Dostoevsky? Do you follow each other on Twitter, Dust? Is that
I do.
are
This I
those the
follow
rules?
his parody account on Twitter.
There's a parody
No, I'm
account.
just kidding. If there should be one, if
Whoa.
there isn't one.
You just found your life calling, by the way.
Hello,
I
I'm Dostoevsky. You like my Twitter account? It's my horrible attempt at a Russian
Yeah, it is
accent.
horrible. Only mine would be worse. Uh, I love Beowulf because there's something strengthening about the language. Um, Alliterate, there are different ways to write poetry in
Mm,
English, iambic and different rhyme
mm,
schemes and sonnets and so on. Alliterative poetry is a way that, and both Lewis and Tolkien have essays explaining how you do it, where the amount of the lines can be long or short. That doesn't matter. It's just you have two clauses in every line, and both clauses have two emphasized
yes.
syllables,
Yeah.
and the second clause has two emphasized syllables, and the oh gosh, I hope I'm not going to get this wrong. The third clause must rhyme with one of the first two emphasized, sorry, must alliterate with one of the first two emphasized syllables. The fourth can't. And there is something so strengthened. There's just something about the quality, the warp and woof of that way.
Well,
When I read,
even with which what you just said, the warp and the woof of, I mean, it there's so the way it flows, almost like billows on the sea, is very cool, right? So it's got that boom, 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 boom,
the
and it's
warp and the woof and the way of the speech. So you couldn't say
it's
warp and woof and way of words. You can't do four alliteration.
correct.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
Lewis calls it an abomination,
yeah.
but it's
It's
so heartening.
it's an abomination, dear little chap. I'm not sure what that was. It was
Um,
supposed to be a pipe. This would be
you've
Lewis.
done yeah, I know it was a pipe dust. You've done Russian and now English. I mean, oh my goodness.
It's the
The
coffee.
only thing the only thing making this worse is I don't have any scotch, and it's called coffee and scotch. And I love in Beowulf the courage against the monster. I love how they build a hall, and Grendel hates the hall. The hall that Hrothgar builds is almost a character in the story that Grendel
Yeah.
hates. He wants to destroy it and defile it.
Okay.
And Beowulf is awesome. And I love that it ends with Beowulf going to fight a dragon, knowing he will die, and dying,
Yeah.
and it ends.
And
And you
it's
get this
over.
Christian
Yeah.
imposition in this early English pagan poem. So you do get this sense of, receiving friendship in the father's embrace.
Yeah.
But boy, it doesn't end well. I just love
Yeah.
it. And I'd so love, I've seriously thought about buying a grammar of Old English just so I can, or
Get
Middle
into it.
English or whatever,
Yeah.
just so I can read Beowulf.
Oh, please. That would be awesome. We could do this that if you did that, we could have a reading on coffee and scotch in one of these
I,
episodes, right?
I met a Oxford graduate who did medieval studies at Oxford who read Beowulf in the original. She said it's not hard to pronounce. Like
Oh,
the language is not simple, but the pronunciation is not awful or anything. Who
why don't
knows?
we get her on coffee and scotch? That would be cool.
Absolutely,
Would she do that
absolutely.
for us?
It'd be great to have a Beowulf scholar, read some of the original English for it. I bet it sounds awesome.
And then tell you that you're full of crap.
That's your job, Dust. All right, what's your Dostoevsky quote?
Wait, before we get into Dostoevsky, I'm just thinking, I'm just chewing on what you said, and the unknown author sitting at this fire. If you could sit at the fire of Seed of Dragons with this unknown author of Beowulf, what would you ask them if you could ask anything?
That's a good question. I think I'd be so much in awe of them that I don't
You'd be
know.
shaking. Yeah, I probably would be as
I
well.
honestly, it's interesting, Dust. Like a lot of the great literature in the past, like it makes sense. It's not super hard to make sense out of.
Hmm.
I don't come away like I come away. I really like T.S. Eliot, but I had to read a commentary on it to make sense out of The Wasteland, which I've come to really love. But it's just incomprehensible. But a lot of stuff written before the 19th century, it's like I get it. Like
Mm,
there wasn't this high and low culture divide. Like Shakespeare was like ordinary people would show up and see a Shakespeare
right.
play and they get
Yeah.
something out of it, And I wouldn't feel the need to ask a question because I get it. Like he communicates. That's
Yeah.
part of what is so great about it. He's not just writing for other elite. He's talking to
Mhm.
ordinary people. So I wouldn't feel the need. I would just drink my scotch and listen to the
I love it.
sounds,
Well, you'd
and
need
just
me to
relish
be
it.
you'd need me to be there because I would bring the scotch since you show up without it. But
Since I always forget.
I would bring the scotch
What would
and you would drink it, and then we would listen to him speak in Old English, which is basically what we want, right? We want to hear him recite his own
okay?
poem at the fire.
Yeah, well, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Dust, what would you ask him?
Oh, Tolkien wrote a great essay on all this, and of course he did his own translation. It's really,
Yeah,
I've heard it's good, right? Um, and Tolkien talks about that overlay for this author, that this author was the one who put it into writing was someone who had a foot in the pagan world and had a foot in the Christian world, and sort of
yeah,
his genius, according to Tolkien, is that he straddles both. And
yeah.
so I'd want to ask a question about that somehow.
Mm, mm.
Maybe it would be something like, what were the first stories you heard when you were growing up besides this one?
Wow,
That would be
wow,
cool. That would be fun, right?
wow,
It's like, what did you hear
wow.
around your
That'd be
campfire?
awesome.
Yeah.
All the Norse myths stuff, I've got my Norse myths downstairs, but all of it is like the very, very latest stage of it. And it was written down by Snorri, whatever his name is, because it was being forgotten and he didn't want it to be forgotten.
Right.
But there are echoes to all these other stories and all these
Yes.
other gods and goddesses, and no one knows
Mm.
has any idea who they are. It's weird how myths, like a lot of the stuff I know, they're written down very, very late because they're being lost and they were alive for so many centuries.
I think this is a moment for us to, and we should probably do this in every coffee and scotch episode at
Hmm.
some point, is to pause and ask Gene Wolfe what he would do. Because
Gene Wolfe behind me.
I know, yeah. Because here I am sitting. I mean, when I sit here and watch you talking to me, you've got Gene right over your shoulder, and at some point, we should just be like, "Well, what do you think, Gene?"
Have you have you seen interview? But for everyone watching, my dear daughter got an artist friend of hers to draw Gene Wolfe for me, and that was a Christmas present. One of the best presents I've ever gotten. I've got C.S. Lewis on the other side of my desk. Have you heard interviews of Gene Wolfe, Dust?
Yeah, a couple of them.
He always sounds like a 1950s country doctor,
He
the
does.
most honed down, relaxed kind of guy. And then
Yeah.
I read it, and it's like this labyrinthine, literate, like at times horrifying. Like his persona in interviews and the stuff his mind could come up with just seems.
It's
You know what I'm
unbelievable.
talking about?
Yeah, yeah. It makes you think of other authors from the past that we love and that we have no record of what they were like in person. If we tend to hold them up on some sort of, pedestal, but in real life, yeah, he just comes across as just a easy person to talk to, listening. He's got a listening ear.
Wasn't Dostoevsky a gambling addict, and didn't he have to like move to get away from his debtors?
I think so. That's a
Yeah.
good question. Should I pull up his Wikipedia page and have a look? I'm
Hey,
horrible. I know nothing about his life.
well, you're horrible for other reasons, you
Exactly.
miserable cretin. Dust,
Exactly.
give us the Dostoevsky quote. Just for listeners, I love my brother Dust to bits, and I told him a couple of weeks ago before we recorded this that once a podcast I was going to rip into him.
What is a cretin, by the way?
You Cretin wouldn't even know what that is.
Yeah,
What's a
see. What
Cretin?
is it? Well,
Gosh.
just
It's
testing
something
you. I mean, if you're
Dostoevsky.
gonna
It's from Dostoevsky's fake Twitter account, Dust. That's how it got developed.
I find you very cretinous. Now that sounded like a vampire. That's horrible. That's just not right. I'm sorry about that. Can we cut that? No, we can't cut that out, can we? All right. So
I'm
I mean,
absolutely.
there's a variety of really just things that I love and that I have underlined in this particular version.
Yeah,
But this is end of chapter 3, and it's Ivan and one of the brothers. If you
yeah,
have never read the brothers Karamazov, but and he's having a conversation, I believe with Alyosha, but he says this: I am that very insect, brother, and those words are precisely about me. And all of us Karamazovs are like that. And in you, an angel, the same insect lives and stirs up storms in your blood. Storms, because sensuality is a storm, more than a storm. Beauty is a fearful and terrible thing. Fearful
Hmm.
because it's undefinable, and it cannot be defined because here God gave us only riddles. Here the shores converge. Here all contradictions live together. I'm a very uneducated man, brother, but I've thought about it a lot. So terribly many mysteries. Too many riddles oppress man on earth. Solve them if you can without getting your feet wet. Beauty. And
Wow.
he just hollers, beauty.
Is that Ivan talking?
I think so. Yes, I believe it's
Wow.
Ivan.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, one of my favorite scenes from Brothers K is when Alyo. So, for if people don't know, it's about four brothers who are each, represent some part of the human spirit, and most of the novel has to do with a murder and trying to figure out who did it, or at least the last half or so. But
I'm sorry,
Alyosha,
it's Dimitri. Sorry, that's a
Dmitri.
quote from
Okay, it
Dimitri.
it
Yeah,
makes it makes
makes more
sense.
sense.
Dmitri,
Yeah, yeah.
that Dmitri would say that. Yeah. Alyosha is a monk, this deeply pious man, and his master in the monastery dies. And there's some kind of rumor or prophecy that his body won't rot, and after 3 days it starts to stink. And Alyosha is like, it's like
What the heck's
shattered.
happening? Yeah, yeah. What's
Yeah,
going on here?
yeah.
The master is not supposed to smell. He's so holy. He's so perfect. Why is he stinking right now? Yeah.
So he goes to the Alyosha goes to this woman Grushenka, who is what's the delicate way to say, she'll sleep around a lot. And I can't
The
remember if
lady of
Dostoevsky
the
says that.
night.
A lady of the night, yeah. And Alyosha's going to throw everything away and sleep with her. If it's been a while since I read it, Dust. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the conversation they have is so he winds up not doing it, and it winds up being really good for both of them. And the conversation they have is so sweet, and just the way it
Yeah.
plays out, I just love it.
Mhm. So you love that, but
It-
you ended up not loving the novel as a whole.
okay, here's what I found out. I mean, I know it's great literature. I know it will be read for hundreds of years. I know that, and I
I don't know.
recognize
I
that.
don't know of anyone who's reading Dostoevsky anymore, but I don't.
I,
Anyway,
I think this stuff will hang around with quotes like that from the Mystery of
it's
Beauty and
true.
the
Yeah.
Storm of Sensuality. I bet it'll
Isn't that
hang
great?
around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't like it when Father Zosima meets the brothers and he meets Ivan and he doesn't say anything. He just kisses him and walks away. That's very dramatic. But it's one point at which, okay, I'll come back to that later. I don't like with the Grand Inquisitor and Ivan's poem, and Alyosha seems to accept the terms of the poem and says, your poem praises Christ. It doesn't. So it's like,
Mm.
oh, okay. Was Alyosha right to do that or not? And then the very last scene, Alyosha's talking to these young boys he's trying to help who are beggars. And I'm like waiting for the novel to crystallize. I'm waiting for Alyosha to say, I thought my brother Ivan was right, but actually he was wrong in the poem. Or my brother Ivan was right, but not in the way he thought, or I have some new, like, and he didn't say any of that. He just says something really important happened and we'll all meet again someday. And the novel ends. And I'm like, it's like the novel won't quite come into focus for me. But
Yeah,
am I missing something?
this is what I like about what you dislike about it is probably what I like about it.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
is I feel that as an author, he's letting them breathe without letting them preach, even though they all preach in their own way. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's all.
Wow. Wow.
He's more
So
he's
there
more
is
concerned he's more concerned with the drama and
wow.
letting the drama play out and letting us watch it and then just
That's really
let the
interesting.
chips fall. Yeah.
That's really interesting. The stakes are so high in the novel that as I'm getting to the end, I'm wanting, like,
Yeah.
bring it home, like
Yeah.
stick the landing, Dostoevsky. But
Yeah.
that's very interesting when you said that that
Like a
way.
Louis L'Amour novel. Sorry, I'm picking on you now, but I mean,
I haven't read I haven't read
oh,
Louis L'Amour.
oh well, those are
He
great.
sounds
They're Louis L'Amour could write a novel like a day. He literally has. There's a picture of him sitting like in downtown San Francisco in between two lanes of traffic with his typewriter writing because he said he could do it. So he went out and he was that kind of a writer. So in that sense, he's a great writer because he was just always he was committed to his task. But all of his novels end with, the hero knocking the crap out of some bad guy, and winning
I,
and making it through.
I'm not asking for Alyosha to win. I'm
Yeah.
just asking for it doesn't seem to me that the issues raised in the novel, like Dostoevsky lays them out on the table, they crash into each other, you move through it, it's gripping, and then it just ends. And it's like,
Yeah.
so give me a steer, which way?
Hmm.
I want the narrator to do that, and he doesn't. But maybe that's a virtue for the novel. Maybe it is.
You know what would be really good, and this would need to be another episode for us, but it would be
Hmm.
fun to get into it more and look at that last chapter and decide and see. It's been a while for me since I've read the whole novel, so that would be fun.
I,
Put a
I
pin,
would I would
we
love to do that,
we
especially
should
with
put a
quotes
pin in
like
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's put a pin in that one. Let's come back to it. I like it. Yeah.
All right, Dust. Well, Dust, this has been hugely fun. For everyone listening, it is very dark, but you are among friends. Leave a comment below. If you disagree with me, if I'm wrong, tell me why. Leave a comment below. Let us know who you would want to hear at the campfire reading their own story.
That's right. And
This
if I could just jump in here too and interrupt you briefly and to say that, and we said this in the introduction for this whole thing in another introduction, but Seed of Dragons started with the two of us just caring about each other and caring about sharing what we think and caring about stories, and everything else is extra. And so we want you to have that same sense, I guess, that first of all, it's just two friends, and it is dark a lot of times, but when two friends get together and have a great conversation, it changes things. I always feel that way when I talk with you, Eric, so thank you.
Me as well. Me as well. Yeah.
So give us that
Thanks,
line again,
everyone.
because it's just awesome. What is it again?
Thank you. It is very dark, but you are among friends. And for everyone watching, you are among friends.
That's perfect.
Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.